Hello, how's it going everybody? So today we'll be having a look at the first Linux distribution I ever installed onto one of my own computers. And that is simply Memphis. And I still have the CD and the book that came with it. So this was probably back in 2004, maybe 2005. This came with over 900 programs. And it was pronounced Memphis. For some reason they spelt it Mepis. It was based on Debian and used KDE. The book that came with it had nice screenshots and instructions on how to use its applications and install Linux. To give you a general idea of what the book contained, there's its table of contents. This was an interesting time for Linux because although you probably couldn't go into a retail computer store and find a computer pre-installed with Linux, some of them sold Linux distros on CD. But if you weren't in a hurry, you could also go to the distro websites and fill in a form and ask them to send you a free copy of their latest distribution. Now my desktop doesn't actually have a CD drive, so I'll put this on one of my older laptops and we'll mount it as a block device over the network. There we go. Now we can see that CD drive there. So we can see this disk was made in 2005. So that was probably about the time I tried this distribution. Okay, let's create the ISO and boot it up in a VM. Okay, let's create a new virtual machine for this. It automatically detected the ISO in known boxes. That's cool. And I think that's way too much memory for a computer back then. It's not too much, there would have been some use cases for it, but I think I had about 1 gigabyte of memory in the computer I installed this on. I didn't actually install it on my main machine back then, I installed it on one of my spares. I had about 6 computers, probably, maybe more. There you go, there's the system requirements. So this was a live CD, yeah, they had live CDs even back then. Okay, so here we are. Now, I think it's kind of lame that you needed a password to log into the live CD, but it is what it is. So if you couldn't figure out that it was just demo, because it's pretty obvious, then you would have had to refer to the book. We'll have to fix the sound card later. That's just because it's running through a VM. Let's see how easy the install process was. So the password was just root. Again, if you didn't know that, you'd have to refer to the book. Okay. So let's go auto install using an entire disk and see if it sets up like the swap and everything. So there was options there to manage the partitions manually. Okay, next it'll ask to install the grub. So we can install the grub. Set up your user account, root password, computer name. It even sets up Samba for you. And it politely asks you if you'd like to reboot. We'll shut down and fix the sound card first. Okay, we'll have to revert back to Virtual Machine Manager to change some settings here. Change it to AC97. It should have no problem detecting that sound card. Okay, I fixed the issue with the sound card. Now also edited the Xorg configuration file so we can get higher resolutions. Ooh, that old school startup sound. Okay, so this is the Xorg file. And what I had to do in order to get the higher resolutions is I had to add in all the other resolutions, because the highest resolution I got was a 1024 by 768 was the highest resolution it would allow me to select. So I had to edit this file to get the other resolutions. And I do remember having to do that back in the day too. And as a new user, that was quite a learning curve. It's good that these days you don't have to do this. Okay, so let's start with trying to access the accessibility tools, because this is really hard for me to read. So let's try the control center. Now, as we see from the desktop backgrounds, there's a higher resolution one here. So why the higher resolution wasn't selectable from peripherals and display is a mystery to me. Okay, let's change the size of all fonts to 15. Okay, that's better. Obviously, having the fonts this large has its downsides. However, if you've got a visual impairment, you don't really have much other choice. Okay, we had a variety of choices for colors. Most of them were pretty awful. KDE2 is probably the best of them. So back in the day, you would have needed a screensaver with the CRTs. We could even change the splash screen at boot up. So we could even create and import themes for KDE here. Set up multiple desktops. Configure all our panels. So yeah, this was pretty much like the control panel if you were coming from Windows. Anyways, that's enough of that. We don't want to be looking at that all day. Now, what's this? Oh, of course we can't connect to that website. Out of curiosity, I wonder where it's got its packages from. Okay, looks like it's got its packages from Debian testing. Jeepers. So this distro, aimed at new users, it comes with a helpful booklet and a CD, came configured to get its packages from testing and unstable. What the hell? So here in the OS Control Center, we have an option to use the Mepis CDs. Now, back during this time, it was quite common for Linux distributions to also ship a CD which had a whole entire software repository on it. This was because not everyone had internet, and the internet wasn't very fast for most home users. So having a software repository on a CD was very helpful. The thing is, if this wasn't FTP, it was HTTP, and I ran apt-get update, apt-get upgrade, this entire thing will break, because that would still work. And the software will be a completely different architecture, and it will be very recent. Is do not edit above this line. Well, I'm gonna do it. Okay, so we know from here that this distro was based on Debian 3.1, and here I've changed to a Debian 3.1 archive. I don't know if this is gonna work. Moment of truth. Now, instead of running the apt commands, I'll try to do it how I would have done it back then. Okay, I presume it's the package manager. Okay, let's try update. And it looks like there are new packages available. So we can try upgrade and see if anything breaks. need to get 418 megabytes. It's not bad. Mind you, if you're on dial-up or ADSL1, that would have been quite slow to update. At the time, I think I was on ADSL2 though, so I would have had no issues updating on ADSL2. The question is, if I reboot this virtual machine after this update, will it still work? Before the update's finished, I should see what version of Firefox it has. I think it comes with Firefox 1.0. Yep, Firefox 1.0. So it successfully completed all the updates. So we'll attempt a reboot and see if it does so successfully, because we do not have the Mepis repos. Okay, so far so good. So it doesn't look like anything broke. Okay, so now we should be able to use apt to install packages. So in this old archive repository, there's some cool games like Flight Gear, Free Civ, even Tux Kart and Tux Racer in here. Now the thing about this package manager is you can't select multiple things at once, which is annoying. Screw it, I'll use the command line. These old archive repositories are so slow, but then I guess that kind of gives you a taste of what things might have been like for some people back in 2005. I wonder if I can install Vi Improved, because I hate regular Vi. Yay! That should have been one of the first things I installed. Okay, let's have a look at some of the programs that came pre-installed with Mepis Linux. One of the things I hated about this distro back in the day was its menus. Now, I can access these applications via various different ways. So I can go Applications, Browse All, Apps, Editors, for example, and I could also access the same things from over here. But some of the applications that appear here do not appear over here in Browse All. It's all very confusing, and everything's hard to find. So of course it came with many different text editors, and it came with OpenOffice. This was before it was called LibreOffice. It came with Scribus and GIMP and various other useful image editors. And it came with a few video editors. It also came with remote desktop clients and email clients and everything else you would need for internet. It came with various different shells. It came with Audacity as well as various other audio and music editing tools. Oh no, it came with Acrobat Reader. And look, it's shipped with Skype. Ooh, yeah. Came with a few different terminal programs too. Came with a few games too, so that was cool. This is one of the games that came with it. Oh, look at that. It even came with a tool for the Palm Pilot. Came with tools for setting up new users. Came with K3B for burning CDs and DVDs. Came with partition managers, various system monitoring tools, and Guard Dog. This was for configuring IP tables with the GUI. All you had to do was tick or untick things that you want to give internet access, and then you've got local here. Came with BitTorrent clients and FTP clients as well. Came with the Zine media player and XMMS. And look, it even came with Real Player. Remember Real Player? Remember these old Linux commercials?
Hello, I'm a Mac.
And I'm a PC.
What's with the big hand?
Well, I figured it's time to show the world my position.
Really? Well, that's what I was trying to do with this ultra hip t-shirt I designed on iLife.
Number one. Don't want it goofing off.
PC. Such a whiz with those numbers, you know that we can't both be number one.
I was here first.
That's debatable. Let's not argue about it. I mean, we're the only guys in town. Check us out. Look around, there's nobody else.
You're right. No one else.
No one.
Hi, I'm Linux. And there are an estimated 30 million Linux users out there.
How long you been standing there?
Long time.
Boy, you sure grew up fast.
Oh, there are a lot more Linux users than that these days. Now, as I said before, one of the things I hated about this distribution when I first tried it was all the menus and stuff. But one of the things I did not try was changing the desktop environment. So let's try to do that. Okay, so here's the GNOME desktop environment package. Let's try to install it. And we'll see how easy it was to switch desktop environments. Oh no! It failed to fetch a package. Okay, let's try to fix this. Okay, I think it successfully installed that desktop environment. So, let's log out and see if we can switch. Okay, just like the modern login managers, you can switch desktop environments here. Okay, so far I like this a lot more than the KDE desktop environment. To me, this just feels a lot less cluttered, which I like. So if I tried this when I first tried this distribution, I might have used it for a little bit longer, because I don't think it was necessarily an issue with not liking the Mepis distro. I think it was an issue with not liking KDE. And even to this day, I still prefer GNOME over KDE. And I have given KDE a fair chance. I used it for a whole month on my work laptop, and I had to switch back to GNOME because I just did not like it. Okay, so this repository comes with a really old version of Wine, but look at the totally wrong description for this application. It says Windows Emulator. Now, the Wine is an acronym for Wine is not an emulator. It's a compatibility layer. It's not an emulator. There are some things I think this distribution could have done better, such as the install process. The user interface for installing this distribution was not very user-friendly compared to the Ubuntu one from around the same time period. However, there are some really cool tools on the live CD, such as a tool for easily repairing the grub and repairing the Xconfig. I also think this distribution was a bit too bloated, came with a lot of unnecessary software, and I do not recall being able to disable non-free packages in the install process, but maybe I missed that option. I think I understand the mindset of including all that software at the time, because not everyone would have had fast internet if they had internet at all, but they could have just included it as a software repository on the CD. Memphis Linux lives on today as MX Linux, which is a collaboration between former Anti-X and Memphis Linux community members. So, that was a look back at my first Linux distro. Soon after that, I tried Ubuntu 6.06, which I liked a lot better, probably because it was using GNOME, and I ended up installing Ubuntu on all my computers. Then when Ubuntu 7.04 came out, I liked that so much that I made Linux my main operating system. Anyways, what was the first Linux distribution you ever tried? Are you really old school? Was it Slackware? Or was it something else? See you later. Thank you for watching.